All right, why don't we get started? So again, good morning. My name is Matt Kozloski. I'm the VP of Professional Services and Cybersecurity for the Winslow Technology Group. This morning, I'm joined by Mike Mackie, Chief Technology Officer of Intercontinental Real Estate out of Eastern Massachusetts. I'm actually joining from our New York office today. Really excited to talk about our Northstar co-managed technology services offering. Have a Q&A with Mike and answer any questions that you all might have. So we'll do an overview of the services. Mike and I will talk for a little bit. Mike's been an awesome, long time WTG customer and has been consuming the Northstar co-managed service for a while now. We'll have a Q&A towards the end, and then one lucky attendee will win this beautiful green Yeti cooler. Great for summer trips, beaches, camping, beers on the boat, whatever. All right. A little bit about the Winslow Technology Group. So we are headquartered in Waltham, Massachusetts. We have offices in New York City, which is actually where I am today, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Washington, D.C. We have solutions that range from the desktop to the data center to cloud. That includes compute, hyper-converged, backup data protection, disaster recovery, a whole suite of end-user compute and mobile solutions. And then my group is responsible for our professional services. So that's project-based services, staff augmentation, and our co-managed service offering, which is the core of what we'll be talking about today. And additionally, our cybersecurity portfolio of products and services, including pen testing, vulnerability assessments. And there's actually some overlap between our cybersecurity practice and our NorthstarMS co-managed service practice we'll talk about a little bit. Full network cloud. From an approach perspective, WTG really tries to identify game-changing technologies. And really, our goal at the end of the day is to deliver the highest level of customer satisfaction that we can. So just diving right into it, our co-managed service offering. We actually have a pretty deep dive on this in another video on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like a longer version of kind of about NorthstarMS, what our co-managed service offering is, feel free to play that. Again, it's on our YouTube channel. I'm going to do a brief overview of it and then kind of get into a little Q&A with Mike. So there's a ton of MSPs in the country. I mean, there's like thousands and thousands of MSPs out there. So what ended up happening was over time, our professional services team was doing an awesome job and still does an awesome job delivering project services. So installing, Nutanix clusters and Dell VMware, VxRail nodes and Commvault, all the data protection, backup and all that. And people are like, this is awesome. You did a great job with the install. We love it. Great solution. Can you help us manage it? And we started doing that with block hours and actually evolved this into a fairly sophisticated co-managed technology services practice, which is the largest growing area of professional services by far at WTG. When we set out to put this service together, there were three main pillars, if you will, that we focus on for this. So the first one is reducing risk. And reducing risk comes in a couple flavors. That could be reducing risk by applying patches to avert crisis from a known vulnerability. Reducing risk, though, could also be human risk. Maybe you have one or two key IT people on your team, and you're looking for a co-managed offering like NorthstarMS that can augment your team to reduce the risk of someone just going on vacation or someone being out on maternity or paternity leave, something of that nature. The second pillar is increasing efficiency, and similar to reducing risk, this also has the kind of two components to it. One certainly is the technology component, right? So systems that are optimized, that are well maintained, that are performing correctly, health checks are consistently running, and we're applying not just bug fixes, but feature fixes will increase in efficiency and performance over time. I think you could maybe even argue that for some cases we're able to help customers get another year or two of life out of equipment by properly maintaining it, keeping it up and running, versus letting it languish. The second component to increasing efficiency is the human component, also similar to reducing risk. So staff today is burdened with applying patches, for example, on say your Windows servers. Years ago, it might have been good enough to just apply patches kind of on a quarterly basis, as needed basis, but we're routinely seeing, not just through customers' desire to keep their infrastructure updated, but things like ransomware supplemental applications for cyber insurance, compliance requirements from supply chain partners, where they're like, you need to be applying your Windows Server patches every month now. And it's just not a great use of IT's team's time to be applying patches. There's no huge material benefit to doing that, other than keeping an environment up and running, stable, reducing vulnerabilities and whatnot. So we help customers increase the efficiency of their staff by taking that off the plate and letting you continue to focus on strategic initiatives. And last but certainly not least is providing peace of mind. I liken this to, let's say you're going on a flight somewhere and you get on that plane. Like, if that co-pilot seat is empty and there's like one guy or gal flying that plane, like, I don't know how I feel about taking a seat on that plane. So we really like to provide peace of mind by being that co-pilot, by being there to help our customers navigate technology, help reduce risk, increase efficiency, and really provide that peace of mind that Winslow Technology Group is there as an extension of your team. When we set out to do this, those were our three kind of main pillars, if you will, but we did take a look at the market and understand what's going on and what we could do differently, and how if we were customers of this, and we actually consume our own service, what we would do differently. So first and foremost, we don't use an RMM. RMM, great technology for providing patch management, remote access, a backdoor to all servers and endpoints on the network. Also, it's a backdoor to all servers and endpoints on the network. So we feel that by not using an RMM and using other ways to deliver the service, we've dramatically reduced the risk for us and for you as a customer of the service. Second, we co-manage and advise. So we actually do not offer a fully managed version of this. If you said, hey, Matt, we want you to come in and take over our IT department, we're probably not the company for you, honestly. We're really there to co-manage, advise. We're not replacing IT departments or thought leaders. Like, we're really there to provide augmentation, guidance, advisory services, and really be that co-pilot. This happens often too, where we see software being resold as part of an MSP agreement. You get locked in. We really don't do that. We really try to make sure that you, as the customer or the license holder, and we'll just co-manage that solution, that package, that hardware, that environment with your team, versus trying to lock you in with software and licensing. We keep this really simple. Like, we want you to work with us because you like working with us and we do an awesome job, not because you're locked in through software. And last but not least, we only support infrastructure. So we don't do desktop, help desk, copiers, fax machines. I don't even know if fax machines are still a thing anymore, but I think they are in the medical industry. But suffice to say, we support only infrastructure. It's what we're really great at. It's what customers had been asking us for over time, and that's what we focus on. So this NorthstarMS co-managed service is completely focused on infrastructure. So network, server, storage, backup, M365, and so on and so forth. I'm happy to answer any questions towards the end of this. So if you think of any, feel free to drop them in the chat at any time, and we'll come back to that towards the end. So with that, I'd like to kind of round this off, and then I'll introduce Mike, and we'll get into a little panel discussion here this morning. I love the notion of the cybersecurity lens, if you will, and this is something from our CTO, Rick Gowan, who basically says, every product and service today has a cybersecurity spin on it, right? Including NorthstarMS co-managed service, right? So patch management, making sure your VMware and network environment is patched and updated at all times is really critical for any type of infrastructure. So our co-managed services significantly augment patching and a vulnerability management program. Also, I should say our project services can assist with STIG implementation, hardening services, vulnerability assessments, things of that nature. And we do actually provide, you know, a hybrid first responder incident response support service. We call it IRIS. If you're in dire needs and unfortunately have some sort of incident and we can be of help, just, you know, give us a call and we'll do our best to help you out there. Back to our co-managed services, I'd like to introduce Mike Mackie from Intercontinental Real Estate Corporation. We are going to actually attempt to put our cameras on and do this. Hey, Mike. Good morning.
How you doing, Matt?
Joining us. Mike, do you want to give just a little introduction about yourself, Intercontinental, and your background?
Sure. Intercontinental is a real estate investment firm in Boston, Mass. I've been working there with them. Started back in 2000, was a consultant for several years before that. And back in 2007, I started to work full time with them, taking on, you know, everything from the IT all the way up to all the branch offices across the U.S.
Awesome, awesome. Mike, you've been a WTG customer for quite a while, so thank you very much for that. There's a ton of competition in this managed services space, so I just kind of off the surface, like what made you choose to work with the Winslow Technology Group for so long, and why'd you choose WTG as your co-managed services provider?
I think there's like kind of, I'd have to say, Matt, there's probably like four decision in the decision making process. And to me, there's like four things, you know.
Okay.
One of them is cost. You know, is this feasible versus having on staff paying somebody on staff? Reliability and response time. That's critical because we have to be operational 24/7. So we need to make sure someone's going to be there when they say they're going to be there.
Yep.
Another thing is, you know, how deep is the workbench? You know, if I call you, do you have the resources there, or can you get the resources there? You know, and the last thing is just overall dependability. If I need somebody there in an emergency scenario where I don't have the internal skill set, I need to be able to depend on them and make sure 100% of the time they're there. So I kind of consider you guys kind of like almost like a Microsoft. When I pick up the phone with Microsoft, I might not get the first guy, might not have the answer, but before I get off the phone, the problem will be resolved. That's the peace of mind that separates consulting companies.
Awesome, awesome. So would you say that that's helping deliver on one of our pillars of kind of helping you and your team sleep at night by having WTG available?
Oh, like definitely. I mean, like Matt, just this week. I mean, so just this week on Wednesday, we had an emergency scenario, and out of the blue, something went down on the sands out in our LA office, and I simply shot an email out, and within 15 minutes, somebody was working on it, and within half an hour, it was operational, and all I did was shoot an email out. So that's the type of response time to me that's critical. And you know, sometimes it's for smaller firms, you don't have the funds to hire all these specialized people in individual fields. So I'm talking everything from working on switches to working on SANs. I think this will be our third round of SANs and storage units you guys are putting in for us. And you don't always have that skill set in-house, nor is it the best decision to do it in-house if you can hire a professional who does it all the time versus hiring an internal guy who does it once every few years. So that to me is a much better dollar spend.
Okay.
Having somebody who can have that skill set and perform that task so much more efficiently than if we tried to do it in-house, which kind of tails to a lot of old mentality, because I did consulting for about 20 years prior to this. And the old mentality was a lot of companies didn't want to hire outside consultants because they were afraid that they're probably trying to take my job. You know what I mean? And that's not it at all. You know, it really is. I think you said it well, because I didn't really think about the way you stated it. It really stated well how you augment an IT team, and you're not trying to sneak underneath and trying to like take those jobs away. Because I'll be honest, a lot of CTOs feel that way, that they want to maintain their spend and their fund level without being replaced from an external resource.
You know, that's great feedback, and I've likened our approach to that to almost like an Iron Man suit. Like in some ways, we don't even care if customers, you know, executive staff knows that it's us behind the scenes. As long as we make folks like you look great, Mike, you'll continue working with us, and our goal is to really deliver awesome service, not.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, the biggest thing I think is peace of mind. I mean, like another instance, like because we're a high net worth small body count firm, a financial firm,
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of people. So I remember one time we were doing a project and we needed a couple people for a day or two. Well, and then another one for like just a few weeks because it was a quick project. And I remember Kobe was able to get somebody in our office in just a few days who was able
Mhm.
to do, that project, whatever level project it is, a junior level,
Mhm.
entry level, data entry level. Um, so that was another nice service to be able to augment the body count
Mhm.
that rapidly without any tie-ins on the back end. Like, I need it for a week. Okay, that's it. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. One of our mantras as part of this too, that which we didn't actually cover in the overview, is our focus on proactive services. So the ongoing health checks, monthly report cards, things of that nature. How has that made a difference in your environment? So when our managed service team is delivering health checks, report cards to just inform you and keep you updated as to the health of your environment, do you find that a value?
Yeah, because the biggest value I find is the older we get, the more you realize you can be so much more efficient if you spend an ounce of prevention. So then all of a sudden you're not in that scenario of, oh my God, there's an emergency happening and it's a fire drill. And if you
Yeah.
just did a little prevention before that, you could have avoided that whole scenario. So depending on whatever your company does, if you're in an environment where you have to be operational 24/7, you can't really afford those hiccups.
Hmm.
And so by doing the simple prevention of patching, of just updating the BIOS on the switches, updating the SANs, just locking down, like we locked down the SAN environment. We had one of the investors wanted to say, hey, I think this is a good option, do this on the VM environment.
Hmm.
So doing the prevention, it's kind of like buying insurance. You don't really get to taste it until the day you get in the car accident. And then you say,
That's
thank
fair.
God I had insurance. So you don't really realize it till you're not in fire drills anymore. And when you're not in the fire drill, then you can focus your energy on the next project and you can focus forward. You're not backward thinking, you're forward thinking.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a great, really great perspective. I had not actually considered that, the whole forward thinking nature of it. Cool. Um, Along the lines of the proactive work, we follow that up with remediation. So patch management, maintaining systems. You touched on it a little bit. Can you highlight how we're helping you keep your systems patched? So you mentioned firmware on switches. I think we help you out with your VMware environment,
Well, yeah, I mean,
SANs.
you guys pretty much set up our entire VM environment from, we have multiple data centers in LA and a couple in Boston. So you guys set up the entire data centers. I think we're going to go on our third or fourth round of, the VM host and the SANs. I think
Mhm.
we're on our third or fourth gen, in the last 10 years. So everything from taking care of that stuff really pretty much entirely, where we can just give you a call or you proactively go and check it out on a quarterly basis. And we really, I hate to say it's like set up and forget, but sometimes it's like that.
It's okay. uh,
But
we
it's
did
good because then we can focus on what we want to focus on. Like a
yep.
lot of people don't really think of this. You think it's patching, right? Now, patching is the most mundane task, but it's the
Hmm.
lowest hanging fruit, and it's where everybody's going to try to come in because it's low hanging fruit.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'll tell you too. When we get into scenarios, especially new customers onboarding, it's not uncommon for us to see vSphere server uptime of like 600 days, and like
Right.
great for VMware and the reliability of that product. But you and I both know there's crypto attacks, there's ESXi ARGs, there's a whole bunch of attacks that are geared towards unpatched vSphere servers that can encrypt whole VMs. So in that, I think you're spot on in patch management and applying and keeping systems current and updated is certainly a critical part of not just maintaining a system, but cybersecurity prevention and that whole notion of kind of an ounce of prevention is worth its weight in the end.
I think
Um,
another aspect is over the years, and now it's over at least 10 years, I can't remember, but working with Kobe and working with the other staff in there. Another thing is when you purchasing licensing, it's another mundane task,
mhm.
but it's so much nicer to be a one-stop location because then you don't have to go out and find the contacts for all the different software platforms.
Mhm.
So it's nice to be able to renew in a one-stop shop. It just makes it more efficient. It makes it easier to track. And when you start
Mhm.
having, you know, quite a few product lines, it starts to become cumbersome, and it's almost, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's almost like it's not an efficient use of time for somebody to have to track all that. If you can put that inside a container that will auto track it and auto let you know, hey, it's time to renew these in the next 3 months. You're not backwards looking, thinking, okay, I have 55 products. Are all of them renewed? And then something doesn't get renewed. And again, it seems like these are all small tasks that seem small, but collectively, they make you so much more efficient and proactive that you look better at your job. I don't know how else to say it.
Great point. Along those lines too, we've been helping folks out with Compellent. So the Dell SC Compellent was, our bread and butter for many years. That product line is no longer. So along the lines of what you're explaining, we've also had to coach customers into switching from Compellent to PowerStore, helping with project services to get that PowerStore up and running, data migrated, and then resuming management of that platform, and really making it seamless to customers just like you, Mike.
Yeah, it's worked out very well.
Awesome. Hey, if someone was in the market for co-managed services, do you have any advice that you'd give that person? That kind of doing
even after being a consultant for so many years, starting out as a consultant in the Boston circuit, I would say, like, those factors to me now, as the CTO of a large organization, one of the largest factors is going to be really dependability. That is critical.
Okay.
If you're in an emergency scenario, a dollar value, and I know we all know a dollar value should not be spent foolishly, but as a dollar value, if the dependability is, if I'm in a critical scenario and I know I pick up the phone and someone's going to answer, because a lot of call centers now don't work like that. A lot of call centers that work, you'll call and they'll give you a call back number or an X amount of time. When you're in that panic mode and you're in that scenario, you want to be able to pick up the phone and reach out whoever you can reach when it's an emergency, not the other 364 days when everything's working fine and I don't need you. When I need you, I need you. And if I have a history of being able to call you and you pick up the phone that minute of the emergency or within 15 or 20 minutes, that to me is worth so much more than being cheaper and getting a service that only responds maybe a 4 to 12 hour response time. So that's a major factor, is dependability. And I'm sure everybody will agree when you're in that emergency scenario. And the other thing is cost. When you look at the cost, you think of how much it would cost to hire an internal DBA. I mean, you're talking 150, 250 a year. Now hire an internal person to just totally handle all switching. That's a whole nother language set. That's a whole nother skill set. You can't master that in a year or two. And then hire someone for the SAN environment. So by the time you hire individuals for each one, your spend is at $750, $1 million just to get 5 or 7 guys that are skilled in those skill set areas, are efficient, and you can go to your boss and say, these are the best of the best, or you can outsource it. It's such a fraction of the cost and have that bench there. I mean, that's why we buy outsourced resources, is because you're more efficient, you do it more, and you're only buying a slice of your skill set when we need it, instead of paying for your skill set 365.
That's fair. Yeah, it's a great point. That's a really great point. Do you think, so I mean, you've had this experience over time and you know this, but we don't hire, for everyone else, like we don't hire analysts, we don't have like a triage queue, we don't have really lower level resources when folks like, you and our Northstar customers call in. Do you feel like that's a, competitive advantage in a way for like WTG and the service that we're offering here, that we have high value engineers? So when you do have an emergency or, a question, you get someone who kind of like knows what they're talking about on the phone right away?
Yeah, I mean, that's critical. I mean, to me, it's because there's nothing more frustrating than being in an emergency scenario and you pick up on a level 1 individual. They're just starting. They don't know what they're doing, and that's fine. We all start somewhere. But the problem is you don't want to waste a half an hour on level 1 individual who's unable to answer your question, is afraid to tell you, I don't know. And it's so much more efficient to just say, I don't know, and it's okay. And I'll pass you to a guy who does know. So being able to alleviate that entire scenario of wasting be up time of several hours of just filtering out to get somebody who can handle it versus picking up the phone and saying, look, I have this issue. I kind of know what it is, and I need somebody to fix it. And not be put in, well, is the computer turned on? Did you look at this? I mean, like this isn't day one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's nice to just streamline that and remove all of that and just get somebody who knows what they're doing. And if they don't know what they're doing, you can talk to them and say, look, because this has happened several times, even at your company, we're all just regular people. And when this happened to your company, it was like, it was on an Exchange platform. We were upgrading a VM environment. And it was basically the individual there wasn't skilled on Exchange 16, I think, at the time. And that was okay. But we were able to pass it by. You hired another firm that was had a higher skill set in there because you saw it wasn't an area that was one of your fortes. And they were able to come in and remediate the issue, work in tangency with the other person, and the issue was resolved. So, it's kind of like a win-win for all, even though you might have to do a little spend on your end to get another person in there to take care of it so that the client, his issue is resolved.
Yeah.
So it's times like that, I'll be totally honest why, our relationship is going to stay strong because, you stand by. Winslow so far has stood by their word. That means something.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate that. Really. Oh man, I could keep talking to you for like a whole other half hour here at least. All right, so we do have a couple questions, and I do want to tell people about the raffle business here. So I'm going to attempt to switch back to this screen here. And all right, so if anyone's interested in understanding what pricing looks like, or the Yeti cooler business, first of all, for pricing, you can contact us and understand like what's included, in our service agreements, how to get started. All we really need to know is basically the number of devices you'd like to co-manage, and we'll take the rest of it from there. We will be randomly choosing a winner for the Yeti cooler. You'll be contacted by WTG representative after. So that gets the business out of the way, and let's get to a couple of the questions here. So first question, is EDR with SOC an option? That is a great question. So if you notice, our service actually has not been positioned or designed to be what's called an MSSP or a SOC as a service, and there's actually a really good reason for that. It's the whole notion of separation of duties. What we do is we actually position and resell a security as a service, provider. So a SOC as a service provider, whether it's EDR, MDR, XDR, whatever DR it is. And what we end up doing is working as an extension of the infrastructure team to support remediation activities. So if you think of SOC as a service or an MDR provider as an extension of your security team, we're functioning as an extension of your infrastructure team, and there's so much overlap in the middle when it comes to vulnerability remediation. That's our unique position here. It allows us to maintain independence and allows you to maintain independence in terms of security versus infrastructure and whatnot. That said, if you would like us to, bundle licensing and whatnot, we're more than happy to do that. We have a really great partnership with a variety of EDR providers, and we certainly could bundle that in to provide that. We do that today. Also, patch management. Maybe you don't have a patch management tool. We're able to provide that, and we actually resell it directly to you, like what I was talking about earlier, and then move into a co-managed motion to manage it with you after the fact. So hope that answers that question. More than happy to follow up afterwards with that. All right, we're at the top of the hour here. Mike, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining today. Certainly the kind words, and thank you very much for being such an awesome and longstanding customer. I really appreciate it. And with that, I will say thank you very much and close out this webinar. Have a great day, everyone.